Imagine receiving an account alert even though nobody typed your password and no MFA prompt appeared. That can happen when an attacker obtains a valid browser session. The login controls worked earlier. The problem is that the proof created after login was stolen and replayed. In this CipherVibe lab, we will follow one fictional session from creation to suspicious reuse, detection, containment, and a hardened rerun. Everything is synthetic. We never open browser storage, capture a real token, imitate a real service, or contact an external identity provider. After authentication, many applications issue a session identifier. The browser presents it on later requests, so the user does not sign in again for every page. If the server accepts that identifier as a bearer credential, possession may be enough until the session expires or is revoked. This is why saying that the attacker bypassed MFA can be misleading. The attacker may never challenge the factor at all. They reuse an artifact created after successful authentication. Strong MFA remains valuable, but applications also need strong session lifecycle controls after the login ceremony. Real session theft can involve information stealing malware, an abusive extension, adversary-in-the-middle phishing, vulnerable web applications, or direct browser compromise. This lesson does not reproduce those paths. We model only the defensive consequence, the same synthetic session identifier appearing in an unexpected context. Our fictional user is Riley at portal.demo.local. A toy server creates the label training token 7 and stores only synthetic metadata, issued time, last seen time, device label, documentation address, and risk state. This label is not random, secret, valid, or usable anywhere. First, we record the baseline. Riley completes a fictional login from laptop A. The session is issued at 9 o'clock. Requests arrive in a plausible order from one documentation address with the same device label. No single field proves legitimacy, but together they form a coherent history. Now the simulator replays only the public label training token 7 from browser B. Nothing was extracted. The server observes the same session identifier with a new device label while laptop A remains active. The activity overlaps too quickly to fit the baseline. That conflict is the detection signal. An IP address can change when a phone moves networks or a corporate proxy rotates. A user agent can be copied. Defenders should score combinations: unfamiliar device state, impossible travel or overlap, unusual resource access, token reuse after dormancy, privilege changes, and sensitive actions without recent authentication. Application logs may reveal session reuse, but endpoint telemetry can show suspicious access to browser data or an untrusted process. Identity logs provide the original authentication context. Correlating those sources reduces false positives and helps determine whether one session or the entire device is compromised. When takeover is credible, contain the active access path. Revoke the affected session and, when scope is uncertain, revoke all sessions. Protect the account, quarantine the suspected device, preserve evidence, and then reset credentials and factors through a trusted recovery process. Do not assume a password change ends existing sessions. Applications should set risk-appropriate idle and absolute timeouts, rotate identifiers after login and privilege changes, and keep authoritative revocation state on the server. Long-lived sessions improve convenience, but they also extend the usefulness of a stolen bearer token. High-value actions deserve shorter windows. Session cookies should use secure and HTTP only where applicable, an appropriate same-site policy, narrow domain and path scope, and HTTPS with modern transport protections. These controls reduce several exposure paths, but they cannot rescue a fully compromised endpoint or fix every form of browser session hijacking. Require recent authentication for payment changes, credential resets, factor enrollment, exports, administrative actions, and other high-impact events. Verify the specific transaction context when possible. Step-up controls limit what a stolen session can do, especially when the session was created hours or days earlier. Where the platform supports it, device-bound or proof-of-possession session designs can require a protected key in addition to the session secret. Copying the token alone is then insufficient. Deployment still needs compatibility, recovery, privacy, and threat model review, but the security property is stronger than pure bearer possession. Keep browsers and related software updated. Restrict extension installation, remove local administrator rights where practical, and investigate processes that access browser storage or memory unexpectedly. We rerun the same harmless sequence with protections enabled. The conflicting device context raises risk. The toy server revokes training token 7, denies both later requests, and requires a fresh login. The event record links the original session, anomaly, revocation, and user notification for investigation. Do not stop after revoking one token. Determine how it was exposed, whether malicious software or an extension persists, which other browser profiles or credentials were accessible, and what actions occurred. Restore the endpoint to a trusted state before allowing sensitive access again. Security tests should cover identifier rotation, idle and absolute expiration, logout, global revocation, privilege changes, recovery, concurrent sessions, anomaly alerts, and cache propagation. Confirm that a revoked session fails everywhere quickly. The takeaway is simple: password and MFA security end at login only if session security begins there. Inventory session lifetimes, verify revocation, require fresh proof for